This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update on Hurricane Rina as of October 24th, 6 p.m. We're watching a rapidly strengthening system here in the western Caribbean Sea. Hurricane hunters have been out investigating the system and found that we do have a hurricane now, and the forecast has this heading towards the Yucatan Peninsula midweek as approaching major hurricane strength. You can see it here near approaching Cozumel, Mexico on the 27th, which is Wednesday in the afternoon hours in the daylight. And then the system starts to turn to the north here towards Cancun, Mexico. And it hits Cancun on Thursday in the afternoon hours. And then eventually turns off to the east-northeast as a cold front begins to drag it off to the east-northeast. But this is almost 2 days over land. It's reminiscent of Hurricane Wilma back in 2005. Where the system sat there for 2 days as a major hurricane and devastated the northeastern Yucatan Peninsula. It took them years to recover from Hurricane Wilma. Let's hope we don't have a repeat of that, but it looks like that's a possibility here. Although there's a possibility, in my opinion, I think it may stay offshore here. It might not even get this far north. It might not even get north of 20 north because the cold front, it's all a race between the cold front and this system, whether the cold front's going to come down and pick this up off to the northeast, or is the high pressure going to keep this in check, and then the high pressure behind the cold front keeps it down here in the western Caribbean Sea. There's several models that indicate that. And then we go into the next position and we see that the system is approaching the west tip of Cuba, and this is going into Friday. So that's the official forecast from the Hurricane Center, is a Category 1 hurricane weakening while heading towards Cuba towards the weekend. So we'll see if that pans out. Now the hurricane hunter's been flying around out there. Here's the last fix right here. One last vortex message from a couple of hours ago, and we have pressure 987 millibars. The system continues to get stronger. Maximum flight level wind 74 knots in the southern quadrant, and the system continues to strengthening. Now if we zoom out on this image and we go back about 12, 14, 16 hours, you can see that the system was down here. There was the vortex message from yesterday from the hurricane hunters, and here are today's messages. So if we draw a line, you can clearly see this is almost a northwest movement here over the past 24 hours. All right, here is the official forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. These are one of the thumbnails on the front page of Hurricane City. You can see we have approaching Category 2 status, weakening a little bit as it approaches the Yucatan Peninsula, probably due to wind shear out of the southwest. That's going to remain down here around 30 knots or so, so the system is not going to be in a favorable environment by the time it gets up near Cancun, Mexico. But it could really bomb out here just to the southeast of Cancun. I think this could get up near Category 4 strength before it's all said and done, before it approaches the Yucatan Peninsula. So they maybe could have a little bit of a stronger system up here than a Category 2. We'll have to see about that. But notice the cone, the uncertainty, a perfect circle here. It could be anywhere up southwest of the southeast Florida coastline, or it could be lingering down here in the Caribbean Sea. I think that's the most likely scenario as the models are shifting more and more south and indicating this may never make it out of the Caribbean Sea. Now here were yesterday's models running the HurTrack program. All the models, global and tropical models. Half of them had it going up northwest towards the Yucatan. The other half had it going into the Central America and Honduras and Belize area. Now here are today's models, and there's clearly a more definitive thinking with the models, and they're all taking it up somewhere here near the northeastern tip of the Yucatan Peninsula and then turning off to the northeast after that. So residents in Florida, Cuba, and even down in the Caymans, believe it or not, there's some models that want to hook it and leave it down here in the western Caribbean Sea. So everybody needs to pay close attention to this in the western Caribbean Sea. But there's definitely been a shift in the models and thinking that this is going to make a right-hand turn. In fact, there's some of them here that do a loop-de-loop down here. So it's going to be a while we're going to be watching this thing. Now here is the GFDL model from the 12Z run. And this has it up near Category 3, near Category 4 strength, actually, near Punta Allen, Mexico. And that would be going into Wednesday, the 27th, as a very significant hurricane. And then at the end of the run here, going out 5 days, they have it in South Florida, near the Florida Keys, South Dade, as a strong tropical storm. That's the GFDL model. Now, what does the HWRF think? This is the HFIP interpolated, the HWRF interpolated model. Interpolated meaning additional information put into the model from other models. And you can see that the system is expected to be near the Yucatan Peninsula going out to Friday, lingering down here near Cozumel, Mexico. And then if we go to the next image, oh, I thought I had that. I guess I didn't put both of those in. But here is the heat content for the oceanic heat content from Colorado State, showing the future forecast track of Hurricane Rina. Notice the warmest temperatures of water, not only on the surface but below the surface of the ocean, are over here near the Cayman Islands. So it's going to be avoiding the warmest heat content, but still very high oceanic heat content all through the Western Caribbean Sea. So this should go ahead and crank up until it runs into that wall of shear in the northern Caribbean near Cuba and the northeast tip of the Yucatan. All right, now here is TropicAtlantic.com, and this is the best performing model of all the models, the MRCL model. Now, the MRCL model is not mentioned much here on the Tropical Update videos, but this is the Megady Radii Clipper model. Clipper model meaning climate and persistence, and this is a climate and persistence model, and this is the best performing model. It's only been off by about 35 miles at 72 hours, and the forecast track takes this right into Cozumel, Mexico, which is basically mirroring the National Hurricane Center official forecast. It doesn't show it going any further than this, so that's all I can show you as far as the best performer. By the way, this model is also the best performer on intensity, and this system is supposed to crank up into a major hurricane. So we're going to watch the MRCL model. This is a climate and persistence model. Usually these are not the best performers, but in this particular case, it is the best performing model. All right, here's a close-up of our system using the floater loop AVN shot, and you can see the system is really cranking up nicely. It's nice and symmetrical, and the center of circulation is right here in the center of the ball of convection, so this system is really wrapping up nicely, and that's why I think this is going to go ahead and become a major hurricane. Now, what's the future of this system? Let's look at the water vapor loop, and boy, I've never seen two systems in the Atlantic with so much dry air surrounding them, but a lot of times these systems get their own high pressure loft and they can isolate themselves from dry air. So here is Rina down here in the Western Caribbean, and we have this whole bunch of dry air, but that's not really impeding too much on Rina. So Rina's going to go ahead and strengthen, and in fact there's a little bit of an outflow channel here for the system to really ventilate get the air evacuated, and then the air comes in that's moist air from the south. So this system has a lot of juice to work with here, even though the dry air is to the north. But the thinking on this is, while I have this image up, is that there's going to be a little bit of a high pressure up here for about the next day or so, and then this is going to break down as a cold front begins to come down. And this is way back here in the Rockies, and this is moving off quickly to the east. And what's going to happen is this is going to come down and cause a turn in Hurricane Rina, but the thinking is that this may be so strong or so fast of a cold front that it's going to actually push Rina back to the southeast and then linger it down here. And several models are indicating this is going to linger down here. For example, the GFS wants to linger it down here for about 4 or 5 days, just spin it around down there, so anything is possible after that. And the Canadian model and the Euro model basically just sit it down here and wash it out eventually, or just basically drift it into Central America eventually. Now, interestingly, a lot of the models are indicating that 97L here is going to take over here once Rina, whatever happens with it, either dissipates or gets shredded by these upper level winds. 97L is going to come in behind that, and that too is going to turn north, and that could be a threat to Cuba and or South Florida or the Bahamas. So we have a lot to watch over the next several days. I'll be back with another update tomorrow night on this situation. The model data is going to get better and better as each day goes on. But watch that MRCL model at TropicAtlantic.com, and we'll keep track of all the models and the latest here at Hurricane City. That's it for now. We'll be back with another update tomorrow night. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.